now we're going to go into a live demo to show the vision of Dataiku, the agents within the platform. And just like agents, this is going to be a very valuable talk. But just like agents, it's going to come with a little bit of risk. It's a live demo. So if you give me 2 seconds to get set up, we'll get started. OK, I think we're ready. So this is the new screen that we're releasing in Dataiku. This is the Agent Hub. This is where users can come together to use enterprise-ready agents and build quick and easy business agents. For the purpose of this demo, let's imagine here that I'm a finance analyst. I'm in charge of all things accounts payable, accounts receivable. My day-to-day looks like going through invoices, using Excel and querying databases. And if I'm honest, it's quite manual, and I'm really excited to see how the Agent Hub can automate this. Before we get started, though, let's just get familiar with this screen. So in front of us here, we have a chat interface where we can add in a number of agents. If I expand out the left-hand side, you can see that I can create new business agents to solve business problems. I can select from an agent library where I have enterprise-ready agents, and I can also monitor all the agents that are here. We'll step into the agents library. So here we can access enterprise agents. And I've spoken a little bit about enterprise agents, but I haven't actually defined them. So what is an enterprise agent? Well, it's one in which the base LLM connection has been provided by IT. It's one where there are controls set up. Maybe we have a third-party agreement with OpenAI, for example. It's also one in which the tools have been tested and validated by our internal IT teams. So I know that they'll work when I use the agent. Now, for my job, receivables analyst, this comprises quite a lot of the work I do day to day. So I'm going to start here with this agent. But in all honesty, I haven't used this agent before. So the first question that I'm going to ask it here is, what can you do for me? The agent is going to go through its tool set, through its system prompt, and give me an answer back. I can see here that it's given me that definition. So it can answer questions about invoices. It can connect to third-party systems, like my email and Salesforce. So this is a great start. But every Monday morning, the first thing that I like to do is, if I'm honest, come in and scare myself. And the way I do that is I'll come in and ask for the top 5 highest priority unpaid invoices. These are the things that I'm going to have to follow up on this week. So if I'm to do this task, it would actually take me a little bit of time, probably half an hour to go through this process. I'd be searching data sets, collecting invoices, putting it in Excel before reviewing it. Luckily, my agent here has these same tools, and it can return back these results for me. So I have my 5 invoices and a chart generated with the summary of results. Now, the next thing I like to do is take a more global view. To do that, I'll ask which countries have had the most late payments in the last 12 months. So I couldn't remember the prompts, so I'm using them from here. Here, I'm looking at a macro view. Which countries have had the most late payments? This will give me an understanding of who I need to keep account of when dealing with customers day to day. I'm using the same agent, but it's querying different data sets in the background. Here, I can see that the United Kingdom is probably the one I need to watch for, as they have had 5 late payments in the last 12 months. So this has sped up my work quite a lot. But if I'm honest, this is only 50% of the job I do. I also deal with a lot of supply chain risk. But my receivables analyst, it doesn't actually know anything about the supply chain. So I'm going to have to add in here a second agent, my supply chain risk analyst agent. And then I'm going to ask it a question, a very topical question about tariffs. So if anyone's been following the news, tariffs are obviously front and center. Here I'm asking it a question about my suppliers and which ones are going to be most impacted by these tariffs. You can see here we've now got a multi-agent system set up. So we've got 2 agents that we're talking to. I can follow here the decision process of my agent hub. So it's thinking, it's called the correct agent, going through the process of translating that text to SQL, and then doing a dataset query. Because this dataset is a little bit bigger, it's taking a little bit more time. But I already have confidence that it's picked the right agent, It's got the results now, and it's returning them back. If I look at the suppliers here, Speedline and GearPro are the biggest suppliers by quite a long way. They have about 11 billion in transaction costs in total. So these are the ones I'm going to keep account of. We've now gone through the process of a business user really using this front-end interface without really understanding the agents in the background. And we've seen how it can speed up their day-to-day job. We're now going to switch hats to someone slightly more technical, someone who will build these enterprise-ready agents. To do this, I'm now going to change screens to the familiar Dataiku flow. So familiar to me, it might not be familiar to all of you, but what we're looking at here is an ETL process. So we have our data sets in blue, yellow represent the transformations, and we're creating new data sets over here. It's good to separate out these deterministic processes before giving it to an agent because it improves the quality of the agent's response. Also within the platform, we can build machine learning models. So over here in green, you can see some machine learning models. Now again, separating this out from an agent gives us better explainability on individual decision processes. And finally, within the platform, because it is, of course, very, very broad, we have our pink transformations. Everything related to an LLM is represented here in pink, and agents here in pink. So we're going to step back now to the start of the flow to get an understanding of our data. So the first thing I'd want to do is take a look at the data. I can quickly bring up a preview to get a better understanding of what's in that data set. If I expand out the right, I have metadata that's been filled in by an LLM that gives me an explanation of exactly what this data set is. Now, one of the things I like to do is track my variables across an entire data flow to see how transformations are occurring. To do this, I can open up a schema view and then follow the data lineage. Let's zoom into that. Now, we can see here we're following client name, which is a string data type from our first data set. It's getting connected into a second one. Transformations are occurring, and then new features are being created. So we can track variables like this across our project and across multiple projects on our instance. So we always know where data is coming from and where it's going to. We're going to step back now to the flow. So after I've created data, then I want to apply a machine learning model. And the first thing I always think of when building a machine learning model is my data good enough quality? Luckily, in Dataiku, we have a number of data quality screens that allow us to give just that answer. Just going to zoom out. Perfect. At the top right, we can see we have the number of data sets that are monitored in the platform. We can also click into our individual training data set here, and we can set up a number of rules. Here I've set up 3 rules to give me a good understanding of the data and its quality. I can also step into a timeline view. If, for example, I'm building an MLOps process, I want to know that my data quality is good every day and be able to identify where it's breaking down. Once we've got a good understanding of our data, well, then we're going to want to apply machine learning models. The thing that we're looking for when we're applying a machine learning model is, of course, explainability. I'm stepping now into the ML interface. So we have versioned algorithms, our logistic regression, and random forest. If we click into one of these, and we go to a what-if analysis, we get an understanding of the classification boundary. So in this example, we're doing a binary prediction of late payment. Did it occur or didn't it? We have a 0 class, no late payment, or a 1 class, late payment occurred. So I can understand where this boundary sits. I can also change my variables to see the impact that that has on this boundary. Now, there's only very small changes, and I can see that's because city is actually not that important a variable in this algorithm. We've now gone through the process of building some data, building some ML models, but we're providing both of these to agents. So how do we do that? Well, new screens in Dataiku related to the agents allow you to do this. Let's zoom into those. Perfect. So a number of agents can be created within the platform. We can create visual agents. code agents, and agents that connect to our other vendors like Databricks and Snowflake, our partners. We're going to start first from the most complex screen. So this is one that our software engineers, ML engineers are going to be using. And that is a code-based agent. I can see here its versions. If I click into the version and the latest one, I get taken to this interface where I have a testing framework set up on the right-hand side and my code set up on the left-hand side. So I can test my code as I'm building it to give me confidence. For the code, we're using a familiar LangChain backbone, so probably the most popular package to develop agents. And we're also using the Dataiku tracer. This gives us explainability of the agentic decision process. I can see here my test has failed. So authentication is not set up properly in this agent, and I'm going to need to solve this before moving it to production. But it's not just code-based users that we want to use agents. We also want business users to be able to build agents. So let's see how they can do that. We're going to step into our receivables manager. So this is the agent that we were using in the chat interface. When I step in here, I have the same versioned interface. I'm going to go to the latest version. And I can see on the left-hand side, all my code has been replaced by text, but I still have the testing framework on the right-hand side. So we can select now from a number of third-party provider connections for our LLM, or maybe open source models if we want to self-host. We can also set a base system prompt, so defining the personality of an agent. We can assign it a number of tools, and I can see here that there's quite a verbose list of tools assigned to this agent. But what are the types of tools that we can give to these agents? We're going to go through the process of creating one to answer that question. So these are the types of tools that we can assign. We can use Python if we want to connect to proprietary databases internally. If the database is already set up and connected to the platform, we can simply connect them with a visual interface. We can also query other agents in the LLM mesh. We can connect to third-party systems like sending out emails, Salesforce, as well as the models that we built previously, ML models in the platform. And one of my favorites as well is being able to connect to local MCP servers. So this really opens up the functionality of agents to include memory or sequential thinking or interacting with other platforms that we have. So we've gone through the process of building an agent now. But what does it look like in the platform? Well, you can see here it's represented visually. We have connections into other agents and also the data sets. If I'm not sure exactly what this means, I can expand out the right, and I get an overall summary of the agent and its thought process. I also get the tools that are assigned to this agent. So we've now gone through the end-to-end of building this project, and we're thinking about deployment. But this project is actually fairly complex. We've got some data, so we've got data ops. We've got some ML, so we've got ML ops. And we've got agents and LLMs, so we've got LLM ops. So a huge array of these. Now, in Dataiku, we like to aggregate all of these together and solve them all at once in a kind of XOps framework. What that looks like is we create a bundle of everything within the project. So we're creating everything at once because we're interested in solving the business problems and not those individual technical problems. I can see here everything in my project. I can gain clarity that it complies with my internal IT team standards. And then I can push it to a physically separate infrastructure so it's no longer competing for resources. But if there's any governance people sitting in the audience, I'm sure you're cringing right now and saying, let's set up a governance framework before doing this. Luckily, within Dataiku, we have a number of governance screens that allow you to do that. I've switched here to that framework. Down the left-hand side here, you can see the projects on the instance. You can see their status, so not started for this project, but our receivables manager agent is in a completed status, so it's ready to be governed. But what sort of governance should we apply? If I expand out here, I can see my receivables manager is medium to high risk because it contains ML, it contains agents. So I'm going to want to overlay a governance framework on top of this. We can do that using the Dataiku templates. The view I'm taking you here is a quick and easy template. So these are the simple steps down the left-hand side of exploring and defining what a project does, qualifying the individual components before validating and signing it off. Now, these templates can be configured to be compliant with the EU AI Act, for example. We've just got a simple example here. So within this, we're defining which business initiatives this complies with, who are the sponsors of the project, what the project actually does, and the metrics associated with it. We have the specific components that are higher risk, so the agents and the ML that we're governing. And we can also assign final business reviewers before pushing this to production. We've now gone through that process of building an agent, deploying it, and governing it. So I'm going to take us back to the Agent Hub to solve one final problem. So we've seen enterprise-ready agents, but in my day-to-day, I often encounter some little business problems that I'd love for an agent to solve. Day-to-day, I spend hours on Zoom, on Teams, and I often can't remember exactly what was spoken about in every meeting. So I'd love an agent to be able to create me some minutes of these calls so I can just look at those. We're going to go through the process of building a quick agent like that. So if I expand out the right, I can create a new agent here, give it a name. In this example, I'm going to use conversational analysis. Give it its system prompt. Now, I'm going to select from a library of system prompts. If I come down here, I have a call transcript summary prompt, which sounds pretty applicable to my use case. I'm going to use this prompt within the agent. I'm then going to autofill the remaining details of this agent. So this allows it to be discovered and explain exactly what it does. And you might be thinking, Matt, I can just upload my transcripts to ChatGPT. Why don't I do that? Well, if your business is anything like mine, there's a lot of data security set up that stops you doing that. So the way that we can comply with that is we can choose from a number of IT-approved LLM connections. These are ones in which we have enterprise agreements set up, and we know data security is going to be OK. So that's actually all we need to do to build the agent. I can then publish this back to my agents library to be discovered. We're now going to start a conversation with this agent, select it from here, and feed it a transcript from a call I had. So it's going to go through the process now of creating these minute notes. And I can see it's done it very quickly. It's identified the key topics, the main points, action items, and even the sentiment in this call. This is going to help me a lot day to day. We've now gone through the end-to-end. We've seen how we can build enterprise agents, how we can govern them, deploy them, build quick and easy business agents. And we've done this with a set of features that we've developed with our customers. And in doing so, we've had our customers use the power of agents with the power of Dataiku to really set themselves up to be these enterprise-ready businesses of the future. So we're very excited now to release all of these features to all of you to do much of the same in your clients. So that's the end of the demo now.